Clean Technica is a clean tech news website, so we've been obsessively covering clean tech news for a decade. That's why I'm here, that's why I get invited to speak and moderate panels. We publish about 15 articles a day about clean technology. We're read by CEOs of every clean tech company, I think. Elon Musk has tweeted us maybe 100 times in the past 6 months, invited us to Tesla factory. We've got some beautiful factory videos, exclusive footage of some portions of the factory no one else has seen on our YouTube channel. So that's why I'm here, that's what I do, and then I also get to, once in a while, talk about my general take on the story, give an overview. We've already had 2 excellent ones. These were really wonderful presentations, so a lot of this is going to be repetitive, but I'll try to do my own useful spin. Start off talking about telephones though, okay? So it wasn't that long ago, I'm sure none of you had this telephone, probably, maybe, but it wasn't that long ago, maybe 100 years, that this was the telephone on the market. That's not that long if you think about things. You know, this is a blip in human history. This is a telephone I had as a kid. It was tan, beige, but you know, we had that telephone. The first telephone I bought in high school with my hard-earned money was a cordless telephone. I was very excited and happy about my high-tech, fancy cordless telephone. I never ever dreamt of anything like a smartphone back then. This is in the 1990s. This was the first cell phone. You can see how happy this guy is. Man, what an amazing piece of technology. Look at this gigantic shoe-shaped telephone that has absolutely nothing useful on it except for some buttons to call someone. But this was a big deal. This guy was extremely happy to be showing off this high technology. If you look at computers, this was an early computer. I don't know who would ever use such a thing. This is a disaster. This was probably the kind of computer I first used in high school to write papers, so I didn't have to use a typewriter, right? Was primarily just useful for 1 or 2 tasks. If you look at these trends, you know, a big thing is the technology has improved, the cost has come down over time, and that's what has enabled the technology we have today. If you look at this example, 10 megabytes hard disk for $3,500. Today you can get 2 million megabytes for $100. The technology has improved. For many of us, for me, this is a mystery. How the hell does this happen? How does this technology get so much better? How does it get so much cheaper? Today we have smartphones that can do far more than any of those computers that we just looked at. They can do amazing things, and it's a bit of a mystery. It blows my mind, to be honest. It's a shock. But the prime thing is when the price is right. Do you have this television show in Curacao? It's a goofy, don't watch. But when the price is right, the technology arrives. And then once it arrives, it gets going. But we're going to talk a little bit more about how that happens. To begin with, you have, of course, the early adoption phase. The innovators are the first 2.5% of the market. And as that goes up, you know, you get more people in the same time frame adopting the technology, 13.5%, then 34%. This is a very popular technology adoption curve that's well known, S-curve. But in real life, it looks a little different. This is adoption of various technologies over time. You have the telephone over here, you have the auto, you have more closer to us, the microwave, the mobile phone. So this is the S-curve as it really looks. A little bit sharper, yes? It's hard to call it an S-curve, but that's what it is. I really try to highlight this in presentations. The first 2 to 3% or 5% is pretty slow. You don't have 1% of the market here in Curacao yet, but as someone just showed, 60% of the new car market in Norway is electric now. When I was first going to EV conferences in 2013, it was a big deal that they had sold 13% of new cars in September of that year were electric in Norway. Now it's 60%, going to 70%, it'll be 100% soon. So it's been following this curve quite well. The Netherlands, obviously many of you know the Netherlands quite well. The Netherlands is now at 8% this year. That chart he showed, I think it was 6%. So it's growing very steeply. China is growing steeply. It might be at 8% this year. So the early adopters are already rising. And you see in this once you hit that 3 or 4 or 5% market, which is still a big market, but some countries are getting there, then you have a dramatic adoption curve with technology. And it's gotten more dramatic over the years. This is partly due to the technology. Cars might be a little less steep because people don't replace their car every year, and it's a big expense. But this is more of what we should expect. Now we'll take a brief interruption from electric cars and go to the topic I covered before electric cars, which was solar energy. And before that was climate science. Thank goodness I don't have to tell you about the depressing climate science, Timo. I appreciate that. But I was covering solar technology, and I think I started covering it in around 2008 or so, right here. And I was invited by CNBC to talk at their London studios about this topic, and I talked about this same story, what's happening, that countries would leapfrog old technology and just jump right into solar, that countries that are mature would rise in solar. But basically you see the point is that the cost has dropped dramatically, and the result is installation has risen dramatically. And both of these charts are old. This actually stops in 2013, but I haven't found a better chart since. And the trend continued, and it continued with the growth curve. So this has happened with recent technologies. Solar, it happened with wind a little bit before solar, and these markets are expanding exponentially. This is a complicated chart, so we'll take a moment on it. This is a study by McKinsey a few years ago that tried to highlight where electric cars get competitive, at what price points. And you have to look at two things. So you have to look at the price of batteries. As it gets lower, electric cars get more competitive. And you look at the price of gasoline. As gasoline is more expensive, electric cars are more competitive. But the key here is they put sort of a crossing point at $2 a gallon of gasoline, US dollars, and $150 a kilowatt hour for a battery. You don't have to memorize that, but we're gonna come back to it in a moment. This is a study in the journal Nature that tried to track every battery price they could find, every forecast they could find. Again, it's a few years old, but I haven't seen anything like it since. And these were existing prices, and the yellow triangles were forecasts. This is Tesla today. And these are forecasts for 2025 and 2030. So all of these industry analysts, all of these people who said cell phones would only be 2% of the market, all of these people who said electric cars will come in 2040 maybe, but not tomorrow, all of these company executives who wanted to slow walk the transition, who wanted to say, oh yeah, we'll get to electric in 10 years, they were wrong. Because the battery price has dropped much faster than any of them said it would. And this is the case of Tesla, which is leading the market, but other companies are not far behind. There's also LG Chem out of South Korea, Panasonic out of Japan is partnered with Tesla, Cattle, a major Chinese company that's growing rapidly. So if you come back to that chart, Tesla is here. So for the cars it can produce, it is cost competitive with any gasoline car on the market. 3 years ago, I gave this presentation. 2016, I was in India for an investment conference. I was presenting in between three ministers, Minister of Economy, Minister of Energy, and Ministry of Transport. And I showed that the current price of Tesla's batteries were there, forecasts were here. This was an extremely aggressive Tesla forecast, so I had to balance it with more skeptical forecasts, right? And you can see who ended up being right, the more aggressive forecast. So what does that mean? What does that translate into? We're going to start. Do you guys have a Toyota Camry, a Honda Accord here? These are mass market, economical cars. They've been at the top of the US market for decades. Very, good value for a fairly low price. I did an analysis. There's a bunch of assumptions you have to do for any of these analyses. You can look at them here, but I mostly used averages, or what I expected to be the average for cases where you can't find it. I used different scenarios too, where it had higher mileage, lower mileage. But basically, the Tesla Model 3, a premium class, high performance, quick as hell, fun as anything, high-tech car, is cheaper in 5 years cost than a Toyota Camry. Cheaper than a Honda Accord. these cars are so much worse than a Tesla Model 3. This is laughable if it wasn't sad. Now, a BMW 3 Series is what you normally compare a Tesla Model 3 with. It's the closest car to a Tesla Model 3. It's still, I would say, Model 3 is 5 times better. But, and I've driven, plenty of BMWs. The Tesla Model 3 5 years cost of ownership is about half of the 5-year cost of ownership of a BMW 3 Series. Why would anyone buy a BMW 3 Series? It's basically lack of awareness and experience. This is a Tesla Model 3. This is the car that beats a Toyota Camry or Honda Accord in cost comparison. This is our writer's Tesla Model 3 actually in California. It's got a clean technical logo on the back that you can't really see on this. This is in Florida where I live. Tesla's popping up. They're popping up all over the place. We'll take a moment to highlight just some of the benefits of an electric car. I wrote about these benefits for years, for months and years before I drove an electric car. When I finally drove one, I said, holy bloody hell, these are so much more fun to drive. I was shocked. I was like, I know people talk about it, but you just can't know it until you experience it. So I hope everybody here today drives an electric car today and has that joy, that fun. Especially, I recommend the BMW i3 if you get a chance, but we'll come back to it. So a lot of fun to drive and super convenient. The sort of ironic thing is that there's a lot of talk that electric cars are less convenient because they take longer to charge. But you don't sit there holding the charging cable. You plug in. You plug in when you get home and you go take a nap or work or play with your family. You plug in when you get to work. So they're just much better overall experience. They're much quicker, which I can't really explain, and much quieter, but I'll come back to these. Elon Musk liked that article, of course, and he responded. Also, you can order in 2 minutes and return it within 7 days, no questions asked, because we know you're going to like the car more. There's no way you're going to return that car. So they have this very flexible return policy. So since Tesla has got production up, it's been a force on the US market that's just staggering, now in Europe and China as well. Since September, it's been dominating the small and mid-sized luxury class. This is not the top of the chart, this is Tesla's bar. So this is not a border. Globally, since the third quarter, Tesla's been outselling Porsche and Jaguar worldwide, all vehicles. So you think of Porsche and Jaguar, these iconic major brands, you think of Tesla as this small startup that maybe is not going to survive. That's bullshit. If you ever heard that, which I'm sure you have, that's bullshit. This company is dominating in key high margin sectors of the market. It's just putting all this money into growth. So it could do that, it could stop doing that and be a profitable company, but it's putting it into growth. So it's been beating Porsche and Jaguar worldwide. This is that growth trend. Does this remind you a little bit of that solar chart that I showed you, or those other S-curve charts? This is happening. This is another article of ours where we highlighted, we had a German engineer who wrote an article about, this is a wake-up call for Germany, that the German economy depends on the auto industry. The auto industry is under massive threat, and they need to wake up. And he was a patriotic German engineer saying, wake the fuck up, people. We need to survive. And Elon Musk was very happy with that article as well, and he highlighted the most important point. The pace of innovation is all that matters in the long run. The pace of innovation. So this is something I hope everyone will take home with them today. Think about innovation and how you can play a role in the innovation of your industry, of your country. So if that doesn't scare you, maybe my daughters will. Monsters. You really would be scared. This is not our Tesla. We don't have a Model 3, a bit high for us, but we have this BMW i3, which is a ton of fun. Again, Elon appreciated that, so thanks to the 45,000 people working there. But that's not the end. We're not at the finish line. We know we're not at the finish line. If you look at the top 25 best-selling cars in the US in the first quarter, there's a Tesla Model 3, there's that Toyota Camry that I talked about, that Honda Accord I talked about. There's still a ton of people buying these cars that are like 100 times worse and more expensive. If you really should add up all of the blue bars, right? Because all of these blue bars are the gas competitors that Tesla should be beating, that Tesla is beating on a technology and price point. So what's the problem? If you look at worldwide, Tesla sales are down there last year, and these are global auto sales. These are all electric cars last year. These are global autos, the rest of the global market. So we have a problem. We have that crossover point, but why are we not moving faster? The problem is inertia. We have mental inertia. Personally, this is one of our biggest challenges as individuals, and we have societal inertia. Napoleon Hill, nothing is more tragic or common than mental inertia. This is a famous captain, maybe you've seen him in the waters around Curacao. The problem is not the problem is your attitude about the problem. We all have this attitude that it's not, we're not ready. Maybe okay for other people, but not for us. Oh, maybe in 5 years, maybe tomorrow. We have to change our attitude to act now. We have to make action today, as Timo emphasized. Otherwise, we're going to be really screwed, and we don't want to talk about that. Eventually, inertia is on your side. You get the momentum, you get the snowball effect. I mean, of course, not here, but you get this kind of dramatic momentum. But you need a catalyst. So you need something that's going to push that boulder, that's going to create that momentum. And the thing is, we have that now. So it's been years in the making. We've been hyped around it for years. 75% of Model 3 buyers last year bought without seeing the car because they knew this is the catalyst. This is that breaking point. This is that point where people see these cars are better and cost competitive. We've surveyed EV drivers and potential EV drivers for years. We put out reports every year on our results. And the thing is, they've showed year after year, they want what Tesla's offering, just at an affordable price. And there's several things that people have been saying they want. And Tesla has been offering it. Up until now, no one else has. But the catalyst has arrived, and other automakers are aware of that. Remember that wake-up call article I mentioned earlier. Other automakers see that. Volkswagen announced last week a long-range, compelling electric car, affordable electric car, basically to replace the Golf. It's the Volkswagen ID.3. It's going to replace the Golf eventually, one of the most popular cars in the market. And the CEO of Volkswagen was very clear, admitted it. Tesla is driving this change. They're a leader, and we're basically following. But it's happening. So Volkswagen is joining the revolution. Nissan has been working from the other end. We'll come back to Nissan in a minute. Hyundai and Kia have very compelling, very popular electric cars. I think their biggest problem is that they have far more consumer demand than supply, but they're making progress as well. The problem is these cars are still much more expensive than the gas version, which scares people. They don't look at the operational costs over time. They don't look at the benefits of the experience. So it's still a challenge to get that competitive on an upfront basis. But looking at the Nissan Leaf's example, the Leaf has also benefited from the battery price improvements, from the technology improvements. It's just coming from the other end. So it offered a car that was not meeting what people wanted, but was affordable on the low end. It started off with a 73-mile electric range in 2011. And the thing is, what it did, instead of dropping the price, as Tesla has done, it increased the range. And this is what all the major automakers have done. They started lower with cars that a lot of people don't want, but they have because they have too low range, and they've been increasing the range. So in 2014, the range was up to 84 miles. In 2017, the range was up to 107 miles. This year, it's up to 151 miles. So you have double the range that it was a few years ago. So it's coming from the other end, and all these major automakers are doing very similar. And you can see this is a chart I created for this presentation where the 2011 Leaf had this much range and today's Leaf has this much range for essentially the same upfront price. So they're also hitting that crossover point. They're hitting that inflection point. Tesla, as I showed, was leading on battery prices, but the others are not that far behind. They're buying from major battery producers around the world, and they will get there too. So an important thing I'm emphasizing for this presentation, I think we have a lot of leaders in this room, political leaders, business leaders, is that there's going to be winners and losers. There's always winners and losers. When you had the computer revolution, this little young nerd, Bill Gates, became the richest man in the world because he saw what was coming and he created a product to meet that market. Elon Musk, before Tesla and SpaceX, he created a company that offered listings for websites, like Yellow Pages, I think, something. And then he did PayPal, which was online banking. This is how he became rich. He used all of his money from PayPal to invest in Tesla and SpaceX. He almost went broke, he ran out of money, but to keep his companies alive. But it was a gamble that paid off. Now he's running two of the most successful companies in the world with that risk. Now the richest person in the world is Jeff Bezos. All he did was create an online shopping platform early when no one else was thinking this is the future, or few people were. He made it the biggest. In my state of Florida, if you drive around, there's all these shopping centers that are all closed down, falling apart, because people stopped buying stuff in stores. People now, 1 out of every $4 spent shopping in the US is spent on Amazon. So you have winners and losers. There are going to be winners and losers. We're at the transition of the EV revolution, where many here probably think that's far off into the future. And I'm trying to show you it's not that far off into the future, and if you want to be a winner in this revolution, it's better to get started today or yesterday. So there's also there's the solar revolution, there's the rooftop solar option. To combine that with electric vehicles, you have vehicle-to-home technologies, vehicle-to-grid technologies. You have all kinds of innovations you can do with hardware, with software, to be a successful entrepreneur or a consumer in this market. So it's good to get started today. And I just need to re-emphasize, other than price, the technology is simply better. Can I have a quick, how much time do I have? Sorry. 20, okay. So I really want to emphasize this. I give a lot of presentations I've given all over the world, and I mostly focus on this, because this is the point that I think people have a hard time understanding, especially before they drive an electric car. The technology is that much better. You can't really explain it, but I say it's, I said it was 3 to 5 times better in an article responding to the Camry article or the Accord article. Elon Musk said plus it's 100 times more fun to drive or something like this. And the thing is, it's really hard to quantify, but it's so much better that you have to say it's 5 times better, it's 100 times better, just to try to get people to understand the driving experience, the ownership experience is that much better. And when you go back from driving an electric car to driving a gasoline or diesel car, and to rent cars a bit, and you feel like you're driving a tractor. You feel like, what in the world happened to this technology? It's got so much worse, or I just forgot how bad it was. You feel like you're driving a combination of a tractor and a wild horse, because it won't move when you step on the pedal. It's loud, it's rumbling, it's like not moving. It's very frustrating. But then when you're driving around the corner, it's trying to take you off the road because it has no regenerative braking. It doesn't slow you down automatically. It doesn't brake automatically when you step off the pedal. And if you talk to EV drivers, one of the number one thing EV drivers say they love is one-pedal driving. You don't have to use the brake, because the systems work where they brake automatically, and that puts electricity back in the battery to make the car more efficient. And when you drive a gas car after driving electric for a while, you literally feel like the car is trying to run you off the road on turns or going into a red light, and it's very dramatic. So I always say it feels like a tractor accelerating and feels like a wild horse on turns. But it's really a lot worse, and it feels like 100-year-old technology, which it is, but it feels like it's really should have stayed 100 years ago. So this is a really big thing that's hard to describe. You have to get used to it, of course, because it's different, but you get used to it in a few days, and then it's that much better. So talking a little bit about the benefits of electric cars. Obviously, air pollution is a major one. We just accept air pollution. We think air pollution is what it is, we live with it, okay, what can we do? But this is Paris, you know? This is Paris in a clean air, you know, this is Paris with a lot of pollution, maybe fog. This is Paris on a clean air day. Which city is going to be more attractive for tourists? Which city is going to attract more people, offer higher quality of life and attract more residents who can choose? Obviously, there's a massive benefit to tourism, which I know is a big industry here. There's massive benefit to quality of life, to real estate values, in a city that's clean and attractive. There's just pure health costs. This is from a Tesla presentation. But just living in Mexico City, on average, you're expected to lose 10 months of your life from air pollution. This is averaging out people who die prematurely, suffer from different diseases. In Paris, 7 months. We just accept, okay, fine, we'll lose a year of our life. We don't have to assume that anymore. We assume, okay, fine, people get lung cancer. Maybe it'll be me, I hope not. Let's pray. We assume that all of this is just, we have to live with it. The dramatic thing is, we have 3 phases of human society right now. We have the phase before we learn to burn stuff, before fire, and then we learn to burn stuff, and we have tremendous amount of growth, industrial revolution from burning stuff. Burning for heat, for fire, for electricity, burning oil for transportation. And we're entering a 3rd phase of human society. And I don't think anyone really understands, I don't think I understand what that means. Because we're moving from a long era of burning stuff to an era where we get everything we need without burning. We get electricity from sunlight. We get electricity from wind, from water. We get to move quickly, transport electric cars, not that far off, electric planes, from electricity, from that sunlight, from that wind. This is a change for society that I think has implications that we don't even think about a more peaceful society, about a more calm society. The global warming crisis, you can't really say enough. In the future, if this gets out of hand, which looks like it's doing, we could have portions of the world where nobody can go outside. We had a scientific article I covered 8 years ago. There will be portions of the world where if you step outside, you will die from the heat. Like, not even a joke. Not it's hot, not there's a heat wave, you will die. So that's the potential future we're giving our great-grandkids. That there's portions of the world you have to not step outside. That's dramatic. Unfortunately, the technology curve is not the only one that's a steep S-curve. We have also the carbon emissions curve, which is extremely steep, and we need to stop it. You have ramifications that people just don't even connect. So you have an issue, scientists have been warning about this for years. If you have dramatic drought and heat, you're going to destroy crops. When you destroy people's food, they're going to get a bit upset. So you had this situation in Syria where they had this record drought for 5 years. Food prices more than doubled. And not that long later, there was a civil uprising. Scientists have conclusively linked these factors, has conclusively said, and they're very cautious people, that this drought was part of what led to the Syrian crisis. And that led to an immigration crisis in Europe. I don't personally think it's a big crisis, because I'm not on that side of the debate, but obviously it's clear to anyone that we have a political crisis in Europe and the United States because there's certain portions of the population that can't handle immigration. They can't deal with the fact that other people are moving in from other countries with other religions, and they're not accepting it. So you can see with a pretty minor immigration crisis, we're having dramatic problems in Europe and the United States. How will that change when the immigration problem is 10 times bigger? These are problems we have to think about. Unfortunately, I know everybody here is telling me this is paradise, and I believe them. I'm convinced of it. It's wonderful. I'm concerned for your country, what will happen with sea level rise? What will happen when this is no longer paradise, when the paradise portions of the country get flooded? You will have a serious existential crisis as a society, as a country. In the US, we have dramatic storms hitting like never before. In California, one of our writers lost his $500,000 home in Ventura, California, to the biggest fire in California history. Several months later, it was no longer the biggest fire in California history. Another fire was bigger. It destroyed we had the fire destroy all of Malibu. These these billionaire homes destroyed. And I'm sure not many people feel that bad for the billionaires who lost their homes in Malibu. But the fact is, this has dramatic economic and societal ramifications, and they can always come for you. We had a writer in Portugal who barely outran a fire. He drove through as the fire was engulfing the road. A few minutes later, they closed that road down. And he wrote a dramatic article about driving through hell. This is what we're inviting on ourselves. The feedback loops are just dramatic. We had an article about a scientific study that the feedback loops are the big problem. What happens after these problems that we can identify. We don't even know half the time. Elon Musk, of course, is concerned. This is one of the reasons he started Tesla. Aside from global warming, there's gas crises. For decades, we've had to face on and off gas crises. Gas prices rise dramatically when the global oil market gets interrupted or disturbed. Do you really like getting your oil, your gasoline from the United States, from Russia, from Saudi Arabia, from Venezuela, from all of these countries that are not your own? The export costs are tremendous. Billions of dollars exported a day from some countries for oil. How would you like to keep that money in your economy? Right now you're just sending money to other countries for oil. What if instead of sending money to other countries for oil, you're sending money to local companies and people for electricity, clean electricity from solar, from wind, giving money to solar installers who put solar panels on your roof. You're giving money to the local electric car dealership who gave you an electric car, and instead of sending money abroad. Again, I'm going to emphasize, this is what a lot of my presentations focus on completely. Electric cars are also just fun and convenient. There's no beating the consumer benefits of electric cars on this market. That way you can get home, you can just drink some orange juice. Well, anyway, that's what I do when I get home, just sit on the couch like that. Who sits on the couch like that when you get home, right? Very realistic. But the point is, you can relax, you can do anything you want while your car is charging. Electric cars are not inconvenient, they're more convenient. Tesla actually used to have on their website time savings and a value of time included in the financial savings of buying a Tesla. They removed it because people thought that was a little extreme. The price of an hour was like $100. But the point is, you have a convenience benefit. We don't have home charging. This is my car in Florida, and we don't have home charging. People think you can't live with an electric car without home charging. It's still more convenient because we go to the supermarket, the grocery store, and we charge there. We go to the beach, we charge there. We go to the mall, we charge there. You just need a handful of charging stations, and it's more convenient. You just plug in and charge the car. I asked my wife, I went through this presentation with my wife, and asked if I left anything out, and she emphasized, well, it's much quieter. This is one of the benefits. Every time we rent a car, it's so annoying how loud it is and how smelly it is. And it's much quieter, and the speaker earlier emphasized this. I've had other EV drivers emphasize this as the number one benefit of electric cars. It's quieter to drive, it's more peaceful, more zen. You can't really capture that in pictures, it's hard to capture quieter, but this picture of these white Tesla seats looks pretty quiet to me. It's cleaner and easier. My 4-year-old daughter was charging the electric car. She always wanted to charge the car. She wanted to be the one to plug it in. And of course it was fine, it's no problem. You go to the gas station, she wanted to help too. I was like, no, you stay in the car, this is gross, this is disgusting. You don't want to touch the gas lane. And this is a 2-year-old, so she was starting to get into it. So it's cleaner and easier. It's actually also safer cars. So the 3 safest cars in the United States, according to testing of the National Association, are the Tesla Model 3, the Tesla Model S, and the Tesla Model X. They have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the National Highway and Transport Safety Association. Much lower because you can remove the engine from the front. A lot of deaths occur because you crash the car, the engine comes into the car and crushes you. And what you really need are crumple zones, parts of the car that can crush and crumple. And with an electric car, you can have a huge crumple zone in the front. So it protects you. There's other benefits as well. They have the batteries on the bottom, which offer a much lower center of gravity, which makes it much harder to roll the car. They found it impossible to roll the Tesla's SUV. They couldn't roll the Tesla SUV. SUVs generally roll very easily. They also broke a testing machine that was supposed to show how much impact it takes to crush a car from the top, and the machine couldn't crush the Tesla Model S, and they broke the machine. So you have a lot of benefits from the flexibility of design. We have a report on EV safety advantage, and it's not just Teslas, other electric cars. Insurance companies, independent testing associations have repeatedly found that electric cars are safer. There's a lot of hype in the media about fires, but they're actually less likely to catch fire than a gasoline car. There's not hype about all the gasoline car explosions that you see. So we have the safety report that's free that you can get on our website. In the end, the future, it starts right now. The technology is here right now. It's just arriving. You can be a cool early adopter. Maybe you were like me, you thought you'd never have a cell phone. You thought you were late to the party to get a cell phone, late to get a smartphone. You weren't a cool tech person. Be a cool tech person today. Buy an electric car, lease an electric car. There's a lot of options now. Used electric cars, that's what I bought in Florida because the prices on used electric cars are tremendous because of this battery improvement, this technology improvement, you have much better offerings on the new car market. What does that do to the used cars? It puts their value much lower. So you can get a crazy, awesome BMW i3 for a really affordable price. You can get a Nissan Leaf, which is a premium class, a family car, really good in a lot of respects for a super low price and then super low operational costs. This is in Hawaii, another island community, not that much different from here. They've got solar panel carport you can see, and Nissan Leaf and Mitsubishi i-MiEV electric cars. The future is available now, and that was from years ago actually. So the future for them was 5 years ago or something. I flew here through Amsterdam, and I was quite surprised. I knew Amsterdam was a leader. I had been at presentations with Amsterdam's director, Amsterdam Schiphol's director of transport, but all of the buses were electric buses from BYD, and they all say solar powered at Schiphol. So now, all over the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam, you have electric buses powered by solar power. The future is arriving. If you want to be a leader like Amsterdam, you should get on it right now. At first I was like, man, I'm very angry at Munich and Frankfurt. They could really be leaders like Amsterdam. They should really quickly follow their trend and be a leader with electric buses and solar power. And then I thought about Chicago O'Hare and JFK Airport in the US, and I thought, oh well, they're like drug addicts, you can't really help them. The US has other problems. One of my favorite quotes, the Stone Age came to an end not for lack of stone, and the oil age will come to an end not for lack of oil. And this quote is from the former Saudi oil minister, Sheikh Yamani. If that's not a testament of where things are going, if Volkswagen CEO saying that Tesla is leading a change to electric cars isn't a testament of where things are going, I don't know really what is, but the future is here. Will you be a winner or a loser? Will you take advantage of this opportunity, or will you miss out on the opportunity to be a leader in this trend? Hopefully you will take an advantage and jump into it as some others have done. Thank you very much.